It's pretty wild how just a few words from a US president can send absolute shockwaves across the globe. Today, we're going to unpack one of those moments, a comment about the war in Afghanistan that seemed simple enough, but ended up igniting a diplomatic firestorm and really testing the bond between two of the world's oldest allies. All right, let's just dive right in. These are the words right here. This is what started the whole thing. President Trump was at a press conference talking about the war in Afghanistan, and he suggested that America's NATO allies, well, they stayed a little back. Basically, he was implying they weren't really pulling their weight in the fight. A pretty casual phrase, but man, did it echo loudly across the Atlantic. So, why did these specific words cause such an uproar? I mean, what's the big deal? To get it, you have to rewind all the way to the beginning of the war in Afghanistan. Right after the 9/11 attacks, the U.S. invoked NATO's Mutual Defense Clause, Article 5, for the first and, so far, the only time in history. America asked its allies to stand with them, and they did. And boy, the backlash was immediate, and it came from literally everywhere. But you could argue that nowhere was that sense of betrayal felt more sharply than in the United Kingdom. We're talking from the highest levels of government all the way down to the families of the soldiers who actually served there. The official response was, let's just say, not subtle. Britain's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, did not mince words. He called the president's remarks insulting and appalling. This wasn't some gentle diplomatic tap dance. This was a straight-up condemnation that set the stage for a really serious diplomatic fight. And behind all the political back and forth, there's a very real, very human cost. Just look at this number, 457. That's how many British service members died in Afghanistan. Every single one of them was a life lost, a family shattered, a sacrifice made in a war they joined because America asked them to. And that pain was, of course, felt most deeply by the people who lost everything. Robert Dickett's, his son was killed in one of the most dangerous provinces of the war, had this incredibly direct message for the president. Engage brain before opening mouth. Just a raw, powerful gut punch from a grieving father. And another very well-known voice chimed in, Prince Harry. Now, this is a guy who's not only a royal, but also served 2 combat tours in Afghanistan himself. So when he called for the sacrifices of soldiers to be spoken of truthfully and with respect, it carried a very unique kind of personal weight and authority. So you'd think, right, faced with this absolute firestorm of criticism from a major ally, would the White House maybe walk it back, offer clarification, apologize? Nope, not at all. In fact, they doubled down. And this is where you really see the two completely different narratives just collide. The White House tried to change the subject to money, arguing that what America contributes to NATO in dollars just dwarfs what other countries put in. But then you have a U.S. veteran, someone who was actually there, on the ground, telling a totally different story. He says UK troops were fighting and dying in tough fights long before the U.S. even sent in its big surge of troops. It's a fundamental clash between spreadsheets and sacrifice. Okay, so with the White House not budging, what does this all mean for the so-called special relationship? And if you're not familiar, that's the term for the super close political, cultural, and military bond between the US and the UK. It's been a bedrock of global politics really since World War II. Now, if you're wondering why not just say sorry and move on, well, political analysts pretty much all agree. An apology is just not going to happen. It really goes to the core of this president's political brand. His whole philosophy is never apologize, never back down. In his world, backing down is a sign of weakness. It's something losers do. He'd much rather just pivot or change the subject than ever admit he was wrong. And we're not just talking about hurt feelings here. This standoff could have very real, very public consequences. There was serious talk that a planned state visit to the U.S. by King Charles and Queen Camilla might get canceled. A state visit is a huge deal, a massive honor, and canceling one, that would be a major intentional snub, sending a really clear message to the rest of the world. Which kind of brings us to the big lingering question, doesn't it? This whole incident, this whole diplomatic crisis sparked by just a few words, it pulls the curtain back on a deeper tension in one of the world's most enduring alliances. When partners in war can't even agree on the basic facts of their shared sacrifice, it forces us to ask a really tough question. In this crazy, rapidly changing world, just how special is the special relationship anymore?